puška puca, a to priče grmi kao grom. Sad ustaša vojak bije za hrvatski dom. Sad ustaša vojak bije za hrvatski dom.
What happens in geopolls when you have a relatively active server that's approaching the season of exams and etc.? Well, usually most people, most admins drop out from active administration, and most of the burden falls on one or two people. In this case, the Frenchie got the burden, and that precedes such an exchange of responsibilities, is that the person who gets the 90% of the burden burns out within a week. Given the fact that this server, again, as I've been informed, because it's no secret that I've been inactive previously, but as I've been informed, the server was quite active a few weeks ago. The exam started, one person got the responsibility, and because of the burnout and just general lack of time for everyone, the events became more illogical, less frequent, the general tedious administration, roles creating, checking submissions, suggestions, giving roles to new players, etc. All these things, and changing the date, obviously, got delayed. This happens almost in a systematic fashion. It's predictable. It is so common that it's almost hilarious. Because of this, well, there are obviously ways to remedy, pausing the server, whatever, the issues. But I think in general, there should be better communication between admins and players when events like these can often be predicted. So in future, we'll try to predict and remedy turbulent times in time, because otherwise, there's a general confusion and stuff. So I'll try to make communication better for starters. Because the exam season is still going on, and I myself have quite important exams coming up in the following week or two, I cannot promise massive, decisive change from tomorrow, especially not from tomorrow, because I'm not even home for the next 2 days. But I will definitely, after this conference, have a quite extensive organizational talk with all the admins. And there will be a proper organization of which admin to which, well, first of all, what are their capabilities in the sense of how much time do they have? And they will be very structurally organized to GM certain things for certain players. Things that are more backlogged or of higher importance will have the priority. And for starters, I think it would be good if we just cleaned up the backlog. Now, one of the ways that players can help in this is very simple, and Bishop made this announcement the other day. And that's that when you make war plans, it would be better if these were not university essay length documents of like dozens of pages, right? You should be able to explain yourself properly in a much shorter format. 1,000 to 1,500 words maximum, with appropriate graphics. You guys would be surprised, okay? Take a picture of your region, if it's a war plan, draw some arrows, and immediately, just with those arrows, you've explained as much stuff that would otherwise take like 1,000 words, just showing where your divisions are moving and stuff. Now, I imagine most people are doing this, but I also know some people are not. Now, if you cannot bother putting every single division or whatever, you can color code the arrows, and each color of each arrow corresponds to a certain amount of units that you can then put in chat. But in any case, using graphics like this one, which I will not, talk about too much because I think it's relatively obvious, can, for example, shorten your war plans quite significantly. Another thing is that most, or not most, but a lot of activity is not necessarily happening in public chats. So that's another thing concerning players, in that you are not necessarily aware of all the activity that's happening. For example, war plans, right? If someone was posting, if you guys were posting your war plans publicly, and you were posting these 2,000 word essays in public chat, then of course for people who are looking from the outside, this would seem like a much more active server. But these massive messages, essays, literally essays, I mean, for my university essay, like word requirements is in that range of 2,000 to 3,000 words. So to get back to the point, these, in fact, biggest messages, this biggest effort of players is often not even public, so you cannot even see it. And this massive amount of activity and time invested by players cannot even be, shown. So there is maybe a bigger perception of inactivity than there is in reality. So just keep that in mind.
When you walk by every night, talking sweet and looking fine, hard to cut, hectic inside. Baby, I'm so into you, darling, if you only knew all the things that flow through my mind.
Ben, outplay. We will talk about the outplay question, right? I will just say that the current owner, and again, I'm not the owner of the server, nor do I plan to be. I'm just backup, I suppose. But the current owner, Franchi, is. I've looked at some of the announcements and stuff, and usually when I do get a ping, even when I was inactive, I would read it. And obviously, the server currently, at least from what I'm getting, is not is not in the best state. But I do feel like, without what I've said in the beginning, he did try his best, and not just that he did try his best, but the fact that this server is not literally dead is quite telling that at least partially he succeeded, because servers cannot completely die in 2 years of this. Before, when I was in my own VFX contest, we've kind of discovered that one of the biggest things that holds the server together, in combination with at least somewhat competent administration, is its community. And, the fact that we are talking about the outplay question right now is kind of a testament of the level of inside jokes and community building that happened here over the years. Definitely, we had our differences, for sure. But because there is a relatively medium-sized community, it should not be that surprising that newer players are harder to engage, because there's an already established community, inside jokes and whatever, that newer players cannot necessarily comprehend immediately. So it's nothing weird that even though the server has 90 people, probably a third or a quarter, actually probably not a quarter, but a bit more than a third, maybe 40% are active, right? So don't be pessimistic about the fact that a lot of people are not active. This is a completely normal phenomena. And in fact, because we have so many OGs, the server survived, among other reasons. So yeah. And new players are, of course, yeah, well, the server here is a new player, for example, okay? I'm not sure if most people like him. So, don't be too ambitious about new people, okay? It can be a curse in disguise. People are obviously great, but they have to be almost, you could say, integrated like migrants into the server, because the community is already formed. There's a conservative bias that's implicit, and it's not necessarily bad, but we should not be too black-pilled because the new players are not being too proactive or whatever. As I've said, guys, this is not the first nor the last time that I personally and Bishop and other people in this server have not just gone through the experience of a failing or a dying server, or even a server that completely died, or a franchise that ended. But we also mustered through it with enough grit, dedication. It is possible. It just requires patience from both sides.
Sad ustaška hrabra vojska, za tebi je boj. Sad ustaška hrabra vojska, za tebi je boj.